So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Accountant Online's Business Growth Workshop series. Today we're joined by Katie DeGama of Sonatum, and Katie is a business executive and a leadership coach. And my name is Rose Kervick, and I'm a director with Accountant Online, and I'm delighted to introduce Katie this morning. The title of this morning's webinar is Discovering Purpose in Your Business. And that can be really, Katie, it can be for your business if you're an employee or your own business owner. It doesn't really matter, does it? It's really finding purpose in what you do for how you earn your living.
Exactly. And can sometimes intersect between how you earn your living and how you live your life as well. So it's very much a way of being, not necessarily just for business owners, but for across the spectrum.
A way of being. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Okay, so for the next hour or so that we're together, Katie, you'll talk us through how and why it's important to discover the purpose in your business, or to reflect on that at least, and maybe we need a refresh given most of us have been through pretty difficult times in business and work over the last few months. And throughout the talk, please, participants, feel very free to send in your messages on the Q&A or on the chat, and I'll be looking after those, and I'll put those questions to Katie either throughout the presentation or right at the end. And I know, Katie, you'll want us to be engaged and active in this talk. Is that right? You want us to have a real think and maybe share some of our own thoughts on the process?
Absolutely. And I think share is the word. When I look at purpose, quite a lot of the components of purpose is about connection. And you know, everybody has a lot to offer, and to share, even if they're embryonic thoughts or observations or comments or questions, I think is the way that we all learn. And it would be lovely today if people felt they could share their insights, because I'm sure there are lots and lots of people with knowledge out there, and it would be great to hear from them. So please, you know, have that courage and share your thoughts with us.
Great. So we have a mix of on the participant list today, we have a mix of attendees, including some of Accountant Online's own employees, and then we have people who are clients of Accountant Online, and then people who have stopped by our website and then signed up to this webinar. So everybody's very welcome. And Katie, let us know, tell us what you have to say this morning about discovering purpose in our lives and in our business.
Lovely. Thank you, Rose. And as Rose says, welcome to everybody. It's a lovely morning, certainly where I am today, to be talking about a topic that I find fascinating, and hopefully there will be some of you here today that have your own fascination with the subject and have perhaps looked into it closely, and others maybe who are thinking about it carefully and considering it for the first time or very early in that process. So as I say again, and I would really love to encourage and welcome comments and thoughts, and Rose has very kindly offered to collate all of the questions, and Rose, as you said, please do feel free to interrupt me through this. It's a fluid presentation, so if there's a question that comes up or a comment, I can't actually see the chat, so please direct it to Rose.
Tell you what's on here.
Otherwise, I won't see it.
Certainly.
But please do feel free. It's not a lecture, that's for sure. It's very much a sharing of knowledge, and comments are very welcome.
Okay.
So when I was preparing for this presentation, and quite often when I'm looking at something that has meaning to me, I like to reflect first on what that is, because sometimes sharing our own purpose can give insight or inspiration or a call to action for others. And I always love to start with a quote. So I'm just going to put this one up. And I should say this isn't an endorsement by me of Starbucks coffee or anything like it. There are other coffees available, as everyone knows. I'm just keen to start with a common thought around what the purpose can be and what it is. And Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, I think says it beautifully. You know, it's that coming together of people who share. And again, that word comes up so much. There's sharing, and there's commitment, and there's connection. And the other word which comes up a lot, and I certainly use in my work, is passion. So passionate about something, you're coalescing around that purpose, and then anything is possible. And when I was preparing for this, there were lots of other quotes that I could have used. And one of the other ones, which nearly made it into the slides, which I love, and slightly older, obviously, than a Starbucks quote, is from Nietzsche. And Nietzsche says, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." And that was used recently in a webinar that I attended, where someone who had been seriously injured was still able to get up in the mornings and to do what it is that he felt he needed to do. And it just inspired a lot of action in me to think about purpose being something greater perhaps than a business goal or a business mission, but more into, you know, reflecting on what is important for us. So as I say, there are many quotes that would inspire, and that's just one of them, or one or two of them. And the topic of purpose is really so large. Any of you who are joining today who have looked into this and have read perhaps Simon Sinek, or have looked at his TED Talks or his many videos that he makes, will know that purpose and why, the why you do something is an important topic, and perhaps increasingly so in the times in which we're living. So I hope today to share with you just a few of my thoughts, and you may well have heard them before. I can't claim to be a thought leader in this space, and a lot of what I believe has already been said by many other people. And again, that's why I'd really welcome your thoughts and your observations. But hopefully today I'll give you an overview of what purpose is, and some definitions around that, and to how to define it for yourself. And then of key importance, I think, for business owners, and this is, as Rose said at the beginning, this is for business owners, maybe startups, maybe people thinking of starting a business, perhaps employees in companies trying to work out where their purpose is within that company, or maybe they're looking at their career and reflecting on how they are moving forward through that career and what their path is in the future. So the why it's important is not just for business owners, but for really everyone, I believe, to think about carefully before making the next step in whatever career or business decision they're making.
Yeah.
And also to share some practical ways to really put purpose into action. One of the things that I find challenging is, you know, looking at words and having great mission statements or values in companies, and then not seeing those translated into how they behave and how they communicate their message. So at the end of this talk, I'd like to have shared with you just a few ways that I think it's low cost and easy to implement steps that you can, once you've defined your purpose and refined it and made sure that it really fits with you and your place in a business or in life, that you can actually demonstrate it to everyone and as frequently as possible. And when I think about purpose, it's, and particularly for people who already have one or who are thinking about defining one, it isn't your mission statement. That I think is a goal. So if you're in business to produce something or to sell something or to create something. Your mission might be to create 1 million of those within the first year, or you know, to attract so many visitors to your website, or whatever it might be. And they're very good goals to have, but that's a goal rather than a reason why you're in business. And I think that's perhaps the definition that grabs my attention most frequently, because it's an inspirational purpose for your business, but it's also aspirational. So you can have a purpose that you haven't yet reached, and it may not be that you reach it within a short space of time. It's a real long-term game, I think, that we create purpose. And actually, speaking of Simon Sinek, I was reading his newest book recently, The Infinite Game. And he talks about, obviously, if people have watched him, you will see that he speaks of, you know, starting with why. So understand why you're in business, and then the how and the what you do will come afterwards. But his latest iteration, which I really gravitated towards actually when I started reading it, was the difference between long-term gain, and that is your cause. So what are you standing for? What is your belief? And short-term gain, which is perhaps profit and, you know, the achievement of goals. And he calls that the infinite mindset, that if you believe your business has a purpose that is beyond you or beyond the people that work with you, then it will continue long into the future, and way past perhaps us leaving our businesses to other people. So it's that long-term piece versus the short-term gain of making profit, all of which is really important. And I'm not here to suggest that if you have a purpose, then profit will just simply follow. Of course, there are lots of other ways in which businesses need to be run. But what I found with the organizations with which I work, that if they know every day why they're doing the thing they're doing, and they communicate that, that's where they gain trust from employees, trust from the public if they're selling, and also loyalty and commitment from the people that they're communicating their message to. So that's why I think it's such an important step. And I'd just like to share for a few moments, just whilst I was thinking about purpose, how I came to discover my own purpose. And I'm comfortable to share mine. It may sound, I don't know, actually, it may sound cheesy, it may sound corny to people, and that's fine, because it's very personal. The other thing about purpose is it is very personal. So mine, as defined at the moment, and I think it's, you know, it's an iterative process, is to make a positive impact on everyone with whom I interact. And that is absolutely aspirational. I know that. I can't claim to have made a positive impact on everyone I meet. But it's something I aspire to, and it's something that gets me up in the morning, and it's something that motivates me. And I was thinking recently, Rose, you need to perhaps turn off your ears at the moment, because it's about accounting. But I was thinking recently, I am no fan of doing my VAT returns. I am no fan of doing my corporation tax returns and all of those things that need doing.
Yeah.
So I don't enjoy that. I don't really find them particularly interesting. But I know that in order to do what I do, those things have to get done.
Yes.
I think there's a difference between what motivates you and what you enjoy. You know, I don't enjoy tax returns, but I'm motivated to do them, because if I don't, I couldn't run my business.
Well, isn't it good fortune then that there's accountants in the world who love doing the work that you don't want to do?
Yeah.
And Katie, for your own personal story, I know you have a background in law, and when I heard your purpose, so your purpose is to make a positive impact on everybody you meet, which sounds to me a huge but really like practical purpose, because it doesn't just cross into business, does it? It's your life. So I imagine you're going to try to demonstrate that in the Tesco checkout and in the parking lot or wherever you are. But did that um, did that purpose come about? Did you change careers because of that? You weren't able to fulfill that purpose, or if I may ask, how did that purpose inform your decision to change your career?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. If I'm entirely honest, I can't say that I had that purpose when I was in my previous career.
Yeah.
And I often call the career that I had previously as a lawyer my paint by numbers career. So, and I maybe this sounds familiar to people, maybe it doesn't, but you know, there was a certain path in life that made its way for me without me really having a lot of conscious input. So, you know, there was academia at school. I happened to do well in my exams. That happened to lead to a university degree. I didn't know what to do, and one of my teachers said, "Well, law's a great thing to do because actually it can help you in lots of walks of life." So, and that led to getting a law degree and then becoming a qualified barrister, as I did in the first place. So it was really my paint by numbers. You know, you do number one and then you move on to number two, and then when you've two, you do three, and you carry on like that. And I think, like a lot of people that I now meet, you know, in my early 40s, a couple of life events happened, and I very sadly lost a very dear friend of mine. And I think it made me reevaluate. And that piece around purpose is, why was I getting up every morning and doing that? It's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I had a really fulfilling and hugely privileged career where I got to meet amazing people, do amazing work. But at that time, it didn't feel as if I was making a positive impact on the people that I was meeting. Some, yes, others, it just didn't seem to align. But I didn't really know that. I couldn't, you know, if you'd asked me back then, sort of 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to describe it in that way. So it is a process. I have taken a long time to get to, you know, even being able to define that purpose. And also that's why I think it's an iterative process.
Okay.
That might not be the sentence that I use this time next year or in 2 years' time. And actually, I was looking through a couple of purpose statements of companies that you will be very familiar with, people like Tesla and Microsoft and various other companies, and their purpose statements have changed over time as well. So Tesla started off about, you know, accelerating the change to sustainable transport, which was a lovely purpose. But now they say to accelerate the change to sustainable energy, because he's moved from just creating cars to Elon Musk, Tesla, to creating roof tiles that are for solar energy, and you know, all sorts of other things that he's working on or they're working on as a company. And Microsoft has changed recently with their new CEO. So it is a process. It's a useful place to start, I always think, and it does help on those days where, and particularly in the times we're in at the moment, those days where you think, gosh, why am I doing this? You know, I could just get a job somewhere else, or I could just continue with what I'm doing, but actually I'm trying to do something different that really is personal to me and is important to me. So I suppose I moved, and I'm now able to say why that decision was made, but I'm not sure I knew in such clear terms why I was doing it then.
Okay, so we perhaps all have our purpose. We maybe haven't articulated it yet. So part of this exercise this morning is to reflect on that and see what is our purpose, what, and then practical ways to demonstrate purpose is a practical approach. Right?
Yeah, and also just thinking about what it said on the very first slide as well, and also to think about not just that it's something aspirational to have and isn't that lovely, but actually it affects the way businesses are run and their successes in financial terms. So my first slide, you know, talks about passion to profitability. So, you know, I think sometimes purpose can sound like something that Microsoft has, or something that Starbucks has, or, you know, look, these bigger companies, Apple, you know, all of those things. And, you know, that's great for them to have because they're making millions and millions of products every day. But actually it's about the local enterprises. So the local coffee shop, the local fruit and veg delivery, the local milk, milk delivery, whatever it might be, because that's the way, I'm giving away the next couple of slides, but that's the way you connect with businesses and you gain market share, but also you gain trust and loyalty, both from customers and from those, if you are a company that has more than a couple of employees, that's how you garner the trust within them, and the giving of themselves into the company, which is so important.
Very good.
Okay, so moving again, another quote. I mean, I as I say, I love quotes, and I do think that if I think about the companies that I find really fascinating and the webinars that I've been to or the talks that I've been to in the times when we were allowed to all sit in a room together, it is the stories that people tell that you remember. And that's just another way of saying your purpose, actually. Tell them a story about why you started your business. What was it that made you leave a job that you were comfortable in financially in order to start, a company with just you at your kitchen table or whatever it is. So that is a theme that will come up through this talk. Okay. So where to start? I think that's a question that if people on this webinar have not yet defined their purpose, then how do you go about it? And one of the first questions that I ask clients when I'm working with them on this is, if you are already in business and you are a couple of years in or a good few years in and you're well established, can you remember what it was that made you think, yes, I can do this, and this is what I want to do? And that equally translates into people that are maybe thinking about starting or have literally set up in the last few months. Lots of businesses have set up through the pandemic. So allow yourself that time and that sort of thinking space to remember what it was that prompted you to do something different, whether that's start a business or move into a different career or begin a different process. And when you have that answer, can you refine it? So can you, again, and this is about giving yourself a little bit of time and thinking space or reflection space, can you refine it down to a manageable sentence or a manageable phrase that is likely to communicate what it is that you felt when you started that business or you're about to start the business, and the customers or clients or people that you want to reach within your business? Because defining it and really honing it into a manageable phrase will help with all of the rest of the work which needs to be done around marketing and brand, if that's something that your company engages in. There's a couple of other questions I think it's important to ask yourself. And the other one that comes to mind for me is starting with the end in mind. And that is a bit of a mouthful, and I've seen that a few times and thought, is that really what we want to do? But the thing about purpose and it being so personal to you and your business is you will have, wherever you are on your career trajectory or your business owning trajectory, you will have a vision. You will know what it is that you want to achieve. It may be aspirational and it may move and it may change. But if you know what that end game is, where would you like to be? Where would you like to be in the world of whatever your company produces or sells or services it creates? Where is that? And it's called, I sometimes work with clients on something called the Nirvana letter. If you were to write a letter to yourself that is from 10 or 15 years time or whatever time period makes sense, talking about what it is you've achieved, but also how you got there. What were the steps you took? What was it that kept you going on those days where there was no money coming into the business, or you had to close a shop, or you had to transition onto online, or whatever it might be? To actually think like that as your future self, and to write that down and just keep it handy. You don't have to share it with anyone. It might be great if you did, but just to remind yourself of what the journey could look like and what you would like it to look like. That's not to say that it will go as smoothly as your nirvana, and things happen during the way. And we will have, you know, experiments that don't work. We will have things that don't quite work out the way we want. They may fail, and that's a word that's okay as well. We can have our purpose, we can be rooted in our purpose, and still have failures along the way. That's, you know, I've had my many fair share of them, and have set out to do things and just wondered afterwards, why on earth did I do that? That just made no sense. And quite often, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, because I certainly didn't know it at the time, I look back and I think, I know why it didn't work, because it wasn't actually aligned with what I was trying to do. It wasn't going to make a positive impact on anyone. It was actually, I just said yes to it because I thought it might be a useful thing to do. So, and that's okay. You know, this isn't about, you know, being very hard on yourself, and, you know, if you stray from your purpose, then all is doomed. Absolutely not. It's a North Star. It's a way of guiding you in those difficult times as well as in the good times, and something that you can just hold on to, but not beat yourself around the head with it, because it is human nature to fail, unfortunately, as well. And from that comes learning. So that's something that we all learn in business, or we learn in our careers. And I often work with, especially around purpose, I often work with people around, you know, what's a safe to fail experiment? So you might want to design a new product, or sell a new service, or go into a new market, or create a new job for yourself, or whatever it might be. And taking that one big leap into stopping what you're currently doing and starting completely afresh is huge, and takes a lot of courage and a lot of effort. But in between those two things are often a few safe to fail experiments. So is there something you can try that you can learn from? If it doesn't work, that's fine. If it does, do more of the same. So those experiments, those learning moments are connected to purpose, and they get us to where hopefully we want to be in business or in life, in our careers. So take one step, see how it goes for you. Don't be afraid to do more honing, more refining, more connection with yourself. That word authentically comes up a lot for me. Is it really true to you, or are you doing it because you think others want you to do that? You know, is it honest and true to yourself, and see how that works. It might not. Try again. That's okay.
And Katie, is it about, ultimately then it's about happiness? Is that it? You know, so you would use your definition of your own purpose is quite, it seems to me quite flexible. Like in 10 years time, if you wanted to do something completely different, and you realized, because your purpose is to make a positive impact on every person that you're in contact with. So that isn't like a career aspiration, it's a how you are aspiration. So in 5 or 10 years time, if you discover a new way of making even a more positive impact on someone, that perhaps could unleash a bit more creativity in you, and you may be able to reach more people by a business expansion or something like that. But ultimately, it's about your own kind of happiness. Is it what makes you happy?
Yeah, for me, certainly that's true. And I suppose if we look back at Simon Sinek and his definition of why we should start with why, the why is clear for me, making a positive impact. The how I do it currently is I am a coach, and I coach people around this work, and I coach them around career development or leadership development or business, you know, aspirations. So, you know, I can stay, and you're absolutely right, Rose, I could stay with my why because it's very important to me, and do something completely different. I might, you know, become as far away from coaching as you can imagine, and do something, I don't know, run a coffee shop or bake cakes, or you know, it absolutely, it's about starting there. because it makes sense to me, and then building a business around that.
Yeah.
And you know, I was rewatching some of Simon Sinek's work recently, and I was reminded of the reason it's important, and I think it goes to your question about what you can do in business or in life can change. That the why is about, you know, people buy the why, not the what. And he gives the example of Apple. And, you know, why do we buy Apple if we're Apple users? I happen not to be, but, you know, lots of people are. You know, why do we buy Apple? They're not the cheapest. Are they the very best at what they do? Possibly. But we buy because we believe in their cause. We believe their why. We believe that they are there to challenge the status quo, and to, you know, yes, make beautiful products, but that's their what or their how. That's not their why. So yes, people are buying into the belief that you have about why you do business or why you do what you do. And therefore the what and the how can be fluid. And that's, you know, isn't that good? Because businesses are being flexible and agile at the moment out of necessity. But also creativity is on the increase, I think, and innovation is, you know, very visible during these times.
Very good.
So that's a whistle stop tour, because as I should have said at the beginning, you know, the components of purpose are varied, and a lot of it is opinion. And as I said, be very interested to hear from everyone else. This is my thought and my observation around purpose and where to start. I've done a lot of work with clients on theirs, so it is informed by that. But equally, others will have better definitions that are more useful for them. And again, I'd love to hear some of that. And one of the words that I think always comes up for me when I'm talking to people about their purpose is what gives you energy. I think sometimes and perhaps it's to your happiness point there, Rose. I think a lot of people think, well, I can't do what makes me happy, because what makes me happy is sitting watching Netflix, or you know, taking the dog for a walk for 4 hours each day and sitting in the sun, or whatever it is. And that's great, and that's, you know, if you can build that into your life, I think that's great. But actually there's a lovely Japanese sort of way of looking at life, which I'm going to pronounce badly, but it's something like ikagi or ikage. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Or ikagi, perhaps. And it's about the intersection of all of those things. So yes, what makes you happy? What has passion in your life? You know, for what things are you passionate? And also the other one is what gives you energy. And it's at the intersection of those that you can probably make a business choice. So yes, lots of things make me happy that I don't do in business. But if I intersect all of those, I get to the point where, you know, for me, coaching people and supporting people through their development and co-creating with them their ideals or their aspirations or their goals, or supporting them in that, gives me a little of everything else. So gives me some energy, gives me some happiness, allows me to feel creative, and all of those things. So, you know, what gives you energy might be a better way than what makes you happy in business, because we can't always do what makes us very happy. In all cases, some cases you will.
So this at this point then, where to start for our attendees? What do you think they could do to make this practical at this point?
So I think it's better done with a trusted person, but you can absolutely do it on your own, which is the questions that I was talking about. So start with, why did you go into business in the first place? What was it, if you can remember back, that created that spark in you, that gave you the idea, if it's a creative business? What was it that you believed in yourself and of others that meant you could create this business or provide this service or build this product or do what it is? And once you've sort of honed that, see whether it's still fit for purpose. And that's perhaps where the current times we're living in has given people a different lens, I think, to view their lives and their businesses. What we knew this time last year is very different to what we know now. So a great time to rethink or refresh your purpose and think, okay, I'm in business because X, Y, and Z. does that still hold true to me and to my customers? Is that still what they're buying? Is that still what they're believing in? Is that still how I'm able to connect with them? And if it isn't, is it that you need to define your purpose differently and communicate it? Or is it simply that the world has changed, the market has changed, and therefore your purpose can stay the same, but your business, so your how and your what, may need to respond differently, but your why may stay the same? And I was thinking about a couple of local businesses actually recently, and just looking about what interests me, and the cake theme comes up again for me. There's a business in North Dublin that is a patisserie and was built on the basis that people came to the store, bought the cake, sat and had a coffee and a cake, and very much interacted on that basis. And of course, patisseries, along with lots of other businesses, were closed down fairly early on in late March, early April. And that particular business owner stayed true to his purpose, which was to really bring great educate and bring great French pastry to the masses, or to as many people as he could. And so he stayed with his why. He wanted to create French pastry experiences for everyone, but he had to go both online. He had to start doing local deliveries. So that's a very local example, but it shows that at the core of his business it stayed the same, but his how and his what changed, and so maybe that's a process that people on this call, on this webinar, are in the middle of or have gone through. And again, very, very keen to hear from anyone that's happy to share those things.
Yeah, sure. Share in the chat or in the Q&A. Maybe if you want to share any questions you have at this point, or if you'd like to share your purpose, that would be really nice too. I don't need to say, if you'd like to keep it private, I won't need to say who actually put in the message, but it would be lovely to hear from others what their purpose is if they're at that stage now.
Mm-hmm. And just before I move on to the next phase of articulating your purpose and the sort of the real business case, so the facts and figures and the statistics around why it's important, there was just one other story that I'd like to share, which I heard many, many years ago, and I think it resonated on a different level, but I've seen the story many times since. And that's about JFK's first visit to NASA in 1962. This may be a story that's familiar to everyone, so apologies if I'm sharing something that everybody's heard. But on that first visit to NASA in 1962, so before the space race had really taken off, as it were, to use the pun, he visited NASA, and one of the first people he met was a janitor in the corridors before he went in to have the meeting with the NASA executives. And he stopped the janitor and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And the janitor had a broom in his hand, so it was pretty clear what the janitor was doing. But the janitor's answer, and I hope this isn't apocryphal, I hope this is true because it's such a beautiful answer, is so his answer was, "I am helping put a man on the moon."
Fantastic. Yeah.
And what a lovely, I mean, it maybe it is apocryphal, I hope it isn't, but it really shows that no matter what you do, if you provide widgets, if you make umbrellas, if you sell cartons of milk, if you're a business that creates web design, whatever it might be, it's in service of somebody else's or your greater purpose. So that gentleman was sweeping the corridor, but in order to keep NASA the best it could be, it needed to be clean, and therefore
somebody had to somebody had to sweep that floor. Yeah,
exactly. So anyway, so there's a story that always resonates with me, and again, very very happy to hear other stories that resonate with others. So we might move on to, I suppose, that the why of why having a purpose is important. And this comes back to the discussion I was thinking about earlier, which is, it may sound like a fanciful thing or a thing for other businesses, for the bigger businesses or for very established enterprises to have the time and energy to focus on their why. But I would certainly argue that it is for everyone. And this comes back to the discussion you and I were having, Rose, earlier about, you know, whether you're a business owner, an individual who's thinking about starting a business, an individual in a career and they're trying to work out what their next steps are. It is good for business and it is good for you. And you know, I'm not here to share stats just for the sake of them, but I did just collect a couple of statistics that really I think make it very clear why it is that having your purpose and connecting with your customers is really important in order to make your business successful, not just for you to feel connected to your business. So I'm just going to read a couple of these stats. They may already be well known to people. Accenture did a survey in 2018 on consumer behavior. And of the survey that they conducted, 64% of global consumers found brands that actively communicated their purpose more attractive. And I'm curious, actually, again, to share in the chat or to share in the Q&A, what brands, both local and global, people are really really connect with. Is it the Teslas and the Apples and the the Microsofts or whatever it might be, or are there some really good examples of local businesses that you always go back to, you're loyal to, because you believe in them? They're not the cheapest, they're maybe not be the closest one to your office, but they're the ones that you really connect with. And why is that? Because I think that's what we're trying to demonstrate. Another statistic, Unilever, they have a number of brands within the Unilever umbrella, and on some of those brands they communicate their purpose really clearly, and on others they don't. And they found that those brands where they did communicate their purpose, particularly when it was in relation to sustainable living, and I'll come on to that in a minute, they grew 69% faster than the rest of their businesses where they didn't communicate. And that's from their 2019 yearly annual report. And then the one that always interests me around Gen Zs, and we're always talking about Gen Zs and the newer people coming up through the workforce. PwC did a survey of Gen Zs, and 63% of Gen Z employees in the organizations they talked to said they were more motivated in companies that have clearly defined and communicated purpose versus 31% in other companies. And they choose, this is the interesting piece for those of you that employ others, they choose now. So my children's generation don't just look for job security, don't just look for, a good salary or a nice package of benefits. They look for meaning and purpose in the companies they work with, and they are not afraid. And I've seen this in business, in both my current business and my previous business. They are not afraid to communicate that to you. I was in a leadership position in my previous career, and I can think of many examples where people would come to me and say, yeah, but I'm just not sure why we're doing this. I understand what we do, but why are we doing it? And the downside sometimes of that is that they are also that generation, and they're not the only ones, but they're not afraid to leave companies either. They will take experiences and purpose and meaning in companies, and they will take that experience and then say, yeah, but you're not aligning with my meaning anymore, so I'm going to move. So again, it's for talent acquisition, it's for talent retention, it's for customer loyalty, it's for branding, it's for making your name, it's for making your name locally if that's your business. And it's for profit. It is for sustainable value and sustainable profitability. And that who, what, where, when, why. I mean, it's a very sort of glib way of communicating what I'm trying to say, but there are so many reasons that are the business case for having an clearly articulated purpose. And sorry, Rose, I think you were going to say something there.
No, I think what you're describing is that it's like it's both personally good for you and then great for your customers as well, because they know what it is you're about. And they can call you out on that as well, can't they?
Yeah.
I thought you said you were going to uphold these values and you clearly aren't,
Yeah. And I was thinking of some local examples, because quite often when I read articles about purpose, it's nearly always the really large conglomerates. And I was trying to find my own connection with it. And I remember very clearly for the 10 years that I was in a company, I always went to the same coffee shop. Nothing ever changed. I always went to the same coffee shop. And yet it wasn't the cheapest. It wasn't the closest to my business. It wasn't necessarily the easiest to get into because it always had a queue. And, so I was thinking, why did I do that? Because the owner was the person that was serving the coffees most of the mornings. And she was really clear about why she was there. She made it all about the coffee and the scones. So it happened to be a coffee shop that was really good on coffee, really good on scones. They didn't sell sandwiches. They didn't sell, extra drinks. It was coffee and it was scones, and it was about really good customer service. She knew everyone by name, not by writing them on the side of a cup, which I know is what Starbucks do, but she knew everyone's name. It was a local business that always had a queue outside it, because we knew she would give us great coffee, great scones, and great service. I never asked her what her purpose was. Maybe I should go back and ask her now, but I am surmising that her purpose was to do that, to bring fabulous coffee, scones, and service to the people in the local area.
Yes.
So anyway, that's a by the by, but I'm sure you can think of your own examples, and it translates across sports teams as well. We often support a local sports team or a national sports team, even when they're not doing well. We still connect with them because it's bigger than what they're doing. It's
and we know they're trying. Yeah.
And maybe we'll support them for 10 years and they'll never win anything. So what's that about? That's because we have something larger than success, or larger than, or greater than short-term gain. And that, again, that's back to Simon Sinek's, what's your long-term cause? What are you doing it for? Versus, are you making money in the short term? Which is not wrong. And I reiterate that this is not about, shunning profit in favor of knowing your why. This is very much the two, and I believe they're not mutually exclusive. And I actually believe one comes when you have the other. So I do believe that profitability and sustainability is over time more likely to come when you're very clear and very grounded about your purpose.
Very good. Katie, we have a couple of examples. Will I share the examples?
Lovely. Please do. Thank you.
So we have a gentleman has said, as a financial broker, my purpose is to help business owners financially provide for and protect themselves, their families, and their businesses.
Wow.
It's pretty clear, isn't it?
Fabulous. And it connects on so many levels as well.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've heard that, but I'm already thinking, I'd quite like my family to be part of my business decisions and my financial decisions. So it connects on that level beyond just, is it the best price? Are they the best broker in town? So lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I think I'd appreciate seeing that somewhere, if I could see that on his website or wherever. And then we have another person who has said, my business partner and I run a coach training company. And our purpose, our why, is building transformational communities of people living from the inside out.
Wow.
We do this through training people to become coaches, but that hasn't made us fully profitable. And we realized that this could also be fulfilled by sharing our material with people who don't want to become professional coaches too. In other words, for personal development and those seeking meaning, repurposing our material for corporate leaders or teams who want to communicate better, etc. Training people who use coaching within their profession but don't want to be trained coaches, etc. We're currently in the process of discussing our how and what that aligns with our purpose. Okay, so they've started with why, which is great.
Fabulous. Fabulous. And that's a lovely example of the golden circle, which is what Simon Sinek calls the why, the how, and the what. So they knew what they were selling and they knew what they were doing, but actually connecting those back to that sort of head, heart, and gut instinct of what is it that our customers are really looking for and what is it that they'll align with us on. Sounds fantastic. So well done. Brilliant.
Okay, that's it.
Lovely. And just wanted to give you one other stat, because I think it's in relation to people that work with other individuals. So whether that's an associate arrangement or as employees in a company. The Mercer report from 2018 on productivity and employees who report that their job has specific meaning, i.e. it's not just a job, they align more with the why, are 4 times more likely to give extra. And that comes into the category of discretionary effort, which is such a difficult thing to measure. For those of you on this webinar who've worked in organizations, maybe the medium and large size organizations, where particularly if you're in a leadership position, the people on your team that go the extra mile, as the phrase goes, or who are willing to ask questions and share and do a little bit extra than you've asked them, or dig a little bit deeper into the research or whatever it might be, are the ones, certainly for me, are the ones where you just go, I didn't know why, but I was just thinking they're great people to have on the team. I'm learning from them. They're engaged. And, you know, it's difficult to translate that into financial terms, but that discretionary effort is so important if you're in an organization with more than perhaps just 1 or 2 people, because that has a ripple effect as well. It has a ripple effect to other teams. It also has a ripple effect to your customers or to your clients or to whomever you interact. So discretionary effort, sometimes undervalued because you can't put a KPI on it. You can't say, right, we're going to improve, you know, profit in this area using discretionary effort. It's very difficult to grasp. But something for me, having run a couple of businesses at this stage, that is just so key. So 4 times more likely to give extra effort if they believe their job or the company they work for has a specific meaning. So one to think of, certainly.
Yeah, really big stat. Yeah.
And just checking, I'm talking too much, which often happens. So I'm going to speed up a little bit because I see the time.
Sure.
So I guess we're getting to the sharp end, if you like, in terms of some takeaways, perhaps, in terms of once you've got your purpose, you've sat and thought about it, be that on your own or with some trusted colleagues or some trusted advisors. You've honed it, you've made sure it's still fit for purpose, so it still makes sense in today's world or in your market share. Then you need to tell your story often and widely. And I was looking at a couple of businesses, you know, both large and small, that when they started had really clear purpose and communicated it at the beginning. And then if you look at you can sort of track their websites over the years, what it used to look like and what it looks like now. And some of the businesses have really lost that. They've really lost that sort of why we're doing things. And one of the companies that came to mind, or a couple of companies that came to mind when I was thinking about this, is Kodak and also Blockbusters. So I'm sure people on this call will remember, perhaps I'm the only one old enough, but to remember going down to the local Blockbusters video store on a Friday or a Saturday night and trawling through shelves and shelves of different videos and working out what you want. Their purpose when they started clearly was something to do with bringing home entertainment or entertainment via video or whatever it might be. And I think it's clear, because they're obviously no longer in business, but it's what seemed to have happened is they didn't refresh their why. That they could have pivoted, and Netflix obviously shows that it can easily be done, or it can be done, that they allowed their purpose to remain static and to remain, because they thought it was brilliant, that they would just keep it and the world would revolve around them. And clearly that didn't happen. The world moved on. They didn't refresh it. They didn't tell the story that they were still there to provide entertainment. So they lost market share and ultimately, very unfortunately for them, went out of business. Whereas other companies saw that their why in delivering entertainment needed to change their how and their what. Netflix is a great example of that, but there are many others. So refreshing it, telling it often, not just externally, but also internally. So making sure everyone within your organization, if you work in an organization with a number of people, know it and buy into it and believe it and align with it, but also then often and widely spoken to everyone you connect with. And I'm no website designer, I'm not marketing, I'm not sales, but where I understand companies and why I want to buy from certain companies and not from others, it's because those messages really jump out at me. You know, they are in pictures, if pictures are what you do, or they're in graphics, or something connects with me on a level that isn't just words. And it screams what they do, and it's all over. You can see it in every person you meet in that organization. You can see it in every document they create, or whatever the service might be, or the product. So get it out there as often as you can, because the more you spread it, the more people you're likely to connect with. And when you connect with people, that creates trust, that creates loyalty. You know, people keep buying the same products every year, even though there might be a better one on the market, because they're loyal to that company or that person or those groups of companies. So again, as I say, I'm not a marketing expert, and I wouldn't want to claim otherwise, but it seems to make sense to me that once you've gone through the hard work of working out what your purpose is, get it out there, because it will connect with people. Not everyone, but it will connect with people, and that may create a groundswell into product buying or services buying. And I just wanted to share, if I may, just one last purpose that I read recently, which is an Irish company, which I'm really connected to, and I buy their products. So if they're listening, they can send me some. But the Happy Pear, which is an Irish food retailer, some of you may be familiar with it, but their purpose is to create a movement to make people happier and have healthier lifestyles, and to build community. And if you look at their website, or you see them in on the front pages of their books, or you see them in their products in SuperValu or wherever you buy your products, that makes sense. It looks as if they're trying to create things for people in order to help them have healthier lives, but also they're building that group of people who are aligned to that purpose. So I really like that one, and it's local. So yeah, I'll leave you with that thought, but very, very happy to share anything else, or to answer any questions.
Katie, that was really, really helpful, certainly to me. And I will be reflecting on what my why is. And it's really, it was very generous of you to share all of that with us this morning. What about your business? One of the comments on the chat is that people went to your website, Sanatum, and saw that there were you have quite a few lawyer clients, which is, I'm sure, as a consequence of your previous career. And the question is, do you just deal with lawyer clients, or what is your service? What do you offer to business people and people in general? I'm sure you deal with a cross section of society, do you?
I do, absolutely. I think my business, if you talk about the what, is coaching. So I have individual coaching, one-to-one, and also team coaching, and various leadership programs which I run in organizations. The answer to the question in terms of whether I'm just lawyers, absolutely not. It so happens, I mean, my business is fairly new. I only started it 3 years ago at this stage. And, you know, my connections, my network were with lawyers. So a lot of that translated into business, but I'm absolutely across the board. I work with very many organizations that have nothing to do with law, and equally organizations that are within the legal community. So thank you for that question. And yeah, absolutely open to working with anyone and any business.
Great. Well, just a comment from somebody here is to say, really enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much. Very inspiring. So that's at least one person that you've fulfilled your purpose with today, Katie. Making a positive impact.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So lots of thank yous, more thank yous coming in. Thank you very much for informative webinar. Thank you a lot. So if people want to get in touch with you, Katie, what we'll do is we'll send out the recording anyway of this webinar to everybody who registered, and we'll put your contact details and your website on there. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can follow up by those details. We'll put your email, your phone number, your website.
Absolutely. And I'd be delighted, even if it's just to have a connection and to have a chat with somebody, I'd be more than happy to do so.
Great. Lots and lots of thank yous. Thank you very much. We enjoyed the talk too. And now we're going to rethink our hows and whys.
Lovely.
Other people say, thank you very much, thought-provoking stuff. So it was a productive morning for you then, Katie, with all of those people you've impacted. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And have a lovely day to everyone. And yeah, keep thinking about your why. And
thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you this is the part of the business growth webinars, and keep an eye out we have another one coming up in October, and we'll send you an email and I'll let you know, send you some reminders on the next ones. Have a great day, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.